oh boy, we're here, 𝗀𝗂𝗶𝗹. Welcome, welcome. It is our final webinar in the series of the Power Pitch events. Welcome to Maximizing Freelancer Potential. Today, 𝗀𝗂𝗶, what made you think of this topic?
Oh, because we took it in a logical step, a logical frame, yes, for freelancers and for hirers. And for hirers, we had the first webinar about how to maximize budgets with the help of freelancers. The second webinar was about finding the perfect match, how to scope projects and vet freelancers. And this one is about how to hire, manage, and motivate a team formed also that incorporates both freelancers and in-house team members, right?
I love it. Well, hello, everybody. If I don't know you, my name is 𝗲𝘲𝗃𝗃, and this is 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃, and we are here with our Power Pitch event series. So as I said, this one is the last of the free webinar series because next week is 3 days of matchmaking. Freelancers and hirers coming together, opportunities abound to get people together. So 𝗀𝗂𝗃, take us through. Let's talk to the hirers first. So how can people who hire freelancers get access to this event in order to find freelancers through the process? How's it work?
It's so simple. Let me share my screen for one moment. It's a very simple platform that we are using. It makes it simple for hirers to log in and to arrange meetings with our freelancers, the freelancers that have registered for our event. So they have to click here. It's all free again. It's worth to mention. It's free for hiring innovators, how we call them. Forward-looking organizations that prefer to work to incorporate freelancers in their in-house teams. So you just need to write your email address. Yeah.
Are you going to share screen? We don't see your screen.
Oh, very strange because I actually did it. Yes, I need to do one more step, which I forgot.
There you go. Beautiful.
Yes. So you input your email address and then you write, I organize amazing events. You have to have a small power pitch as a hirer as well, yes? To tell something about the vision of your company or the vision of your events. What do you want to achieve? And then you have to select the maximum top skills that you are looking for in a freelancer for your project's best outcome. You can choose out of these topics we have prepared, like, for example, maybe you really are interested in what my specialty is, audience segmentation and targeting, or you want community management to make your attendees feel like a part of a community with your event, because this is the purpose of events, one of the purposes of events. Yeah, you select top maximum 5. Then you go to what is your project scope. So you have to have a project scope in mind, the type of event, again, what you want to achieve, your objectives. I will just write testing. And here you need to say what type of contract you prefer. On set, then you will need to input your location, if it's hybrid or fully virtual. So again, also type of projects. If you feel the need, something is missing from our selections, from our matching criteria, you can tell it to us and it can be solved in maximum 1 hour. This is the amazing part of Conversation Starter, the platform we are using. They are very, very adaptable. And this is it. For now, we are getting hirers in to join. Tomorrow, freelancers will start building their profiles. And then it's very easy. You have 3 days. You choose your available time slots. So maybe you are available only on the 5th and 6th. You are not available on the 7th. Or maybe you want to have these type of power pitch meetings only in the afternoon. You select these slots and you are set to go. The system will match you automatically based on what you have inputted, but you also can navigate, look around, browse to all the participants and book one-on-one 15 minutes power pitch meetings with anybody you want.
Amazing. So you can go to power-pitch.events and I will drop it in the comments over on LinkedIn. So if you want to join, you can join. If you are a Club 𝗲𝗂𝗃 insider, jump into the Slack channel and you can get the comp code and join it for free. And now I think that we just want to bring in our final speaker, our final guest for this one, because now we're trying to figure out exactly how the hirers can maximize freelancer potential, because I really want to talk to Jimmy about this. When you run an agency, when you launch a business as a solopreneur and have to bring in others, or when you're at a corporate and you don't have the resources to actually execute everything and need to bring in others, bringing a team, I like to call them the Avengers, right? How do you pull together a team of the Avengers that has a specific skill in every kind of area that you need and create a team out of it? And a lot of people don't do that. They just hire what they need and then have it going. So I'm really, really excited to get the perspective of someone who's been working with freelancers for years.
Jimmy,
there
welcome. You are
Jimmy,
muted. Yeah. And you muted yourself, so I cannot unmute you. Why can we unmute me, Jimmy? Technical issues in events, right?
That's right. That's how we roll, right? Okay, so we'll get all of the technical issues resolved. So, 𝗀𝗂𝗃, do you see that? Is that on Jimmy's side or your side?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
The mute, is that on
Right,
Jimmy's
I'm back.
side?
Here we go.
Here he
Sorry
is.
about that. I guess you
Beautiful.
saved the best for last. Sorry about the glitch
That's
there.
right. So Jimmy Ervin with Velocity XD, I would love to know a little bit about your history with working with freelancers. So did you start as a freelancer, or how long has it been since you had
Yeah, good question. No, I started at a big agency where we had, virtually every position on staff. I even had a full, we called 𝗀𝘂𝗃𝗲𝗀𝗃 of 6 graphic designers and all the different types of graphic skills. So freelancers, we used very selectively back then. We use them much more now as a smaller agency. And it's really it's such a great part of the industry. There are some of the very best talent out there doesn't want to work for a company. They want the freedom to work as a freelancer. So particularly in areas like writing, the arts, like, scenic design, graphic design, some of your best talents out there in freelance. So you really need to be good at this. You really need to be very conscientious about how you're finding them, how you're hiring them. So, I used to have 35 people on staff. Now we're probably a third of that, because there's so much great talent out there available to pick and choose from for a specific project, a specific, client. I find that, you're not just looking at experience, but you're looking at the style of the freelancer. How do they communicate? How do they interact with people? So we're very conscientious about how we do this. And we've had great success for 20 years working with, a lot of different types of freelancers in a lot of different capacities.
normally find them? I know word of mouth is what I hear a lot. Is there another resource you go to, or is it really a referral based business for you?
In our business, it's such a tight community and such a tight industry. You kind of have to know, you have to kind of be connected, right? When I look at somebody, let's say I look up somebody up on LinkedIn, I'll know right away whether they really do what we really do and what we need to do based on who they know. Like whether it's their job history or who they're connected with, I can tell if somebody does things at the type of work we need at the level we need by who they're connected with. And if I don't know them already or know somebody that knows them, I reach out to somebody and say, have you worked with this person? What was your experience? Do they really do this and do it this way? And that's how you really kind of find those finer details, those fine skill sets that you need to fit really well into your team.
So from a freelancer perspective, I think it feels like they should be out there just doing as many things as they can live at events in order to network, so that network can build, so that people like you can find them.
Yeah, the network is super important. And you don't just obviously just want to wait until you need a project or need a job. You want to be doing this. Like I said, we're a small industry. We all know this. It's a team. Events are a team sport, as 𝗀𝗂𝗃 and I were discussing earlier today. So use that network now. So if you don't think you need the work, you might need it later. But you build your network now. And I would say be very specific about when you're posting your skill sets. Be very specific about it. I mean, that's, if you're coming from an organization where you worked on staff, let's say at, a large brand, post those projects and talk specifically about what you did on those projects, so people have a really good idea of what your skill set is and where you excel and what you can bring to the table.
Do you find that it is valuable or even necessary at all to try to create a team out of your freelancers, or do you hire them for kind of their swim lane, let them go do their thing and just report in?
For sure. Team is everything, right? So when you look at, let's say you want to bring in a freelance producer, you have some additional, you don't have the capacity internally, let's say, and you want to bring in an additional producer. There are different types of producers. Some of them are very budget focused and really good about managing complex, high, budgets and high attention to detail on the money side. There's some that are more creative and they really interface well with a creative team and understand the creative side. And there's some that is great team motivators and help the team gel together and come together and work out all as one. You need to be really, I think I try to be very conscientious about that, very specific about the type and style of the work that fits in not only with the client team and what they need in terms of their style, but also the existing team I'm putting them into. Because we always say one bad apple or one a-hole
ruins the lot.
Can ruin the whole project. So we got to be really careful that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and working really well and tightly with the team.
That's a really interesting perspective. So if I am a solopreneur or an agency pulling it all together, it's really not just about getting the job done. It is about managing the personalities. If they're going to be client facing, then you got to have the right people. Or if they're going to be customer facing, then you even more have to have the right people together. How can you kind of like judge that or evaluate that if you haven't worked with the freelancer before? Is it truly based on recommendation? Or do you go through a full interview like a real job?
Good question. I interview really any freelancer at a certain level. Like if you're hiring like a grip and for a video team in Seattle, that's one thing. But if you're hiring someone who's going to be part of an ongoing team, particularly if they're going to have interface with client, I interview them all, and we talk extensively about we start with how'd you get in the business, which is a very telling thing. Right? How'd you get in this business? What do you love about it? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? This is like a regular interview. And then I think you want to be candid about, what they're getting into. You need to tell them, look, here's the situation. You can't candy coat, like sugarcoat something and say, hey, this is going to be great. If there's challenges they're going to face, you need to tell them up front. So it's not a surprise, because we all know a small problem under the pressure of a deadline can become a big problem really fast. So you got to be very transparent, candid, and just keep a wide open conversation. And, I've fortunately been doing this for 25 years. So I can after a conversation, I can get a pretty good feel for somebody. But, the more communication until you're comfortable, have them talk to other team members, not just, yourself, and then get a really good sense of what they're getting into. And that gives you a better chance of success.
So we've had a lot of conversation on the freelancer side about setting your pricing, and do you go hourly or project-based or retainer-based? I would love the perspective from the hirer side of what you normally look for. What's the easiest thing for you to bring on?
I mean, from a price standpoint, we don't really care, honestly. It's day rate. A lot of it's dictated by client, how they need to see their budgets, how they need to see their the information presented to them. But for us, day rate and hourly is the same thing, essentially. It's the question, there's one little slight detail, is like if somebody basing their hourly on an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day, we typically work on a 10-hour day, because we just know that's what our standard day is for us, particularly on site. But just clarifying that, hourly, the more important thing I'd say is how do they need to get paid, right? Because freelancers, one of the things you want to maintain good relationships with freelancers, just pay them on time, pay them early, pay them on time. It's not somebody that, they are a team member. They need to be treated like a team member, right? And if your employees get paid every 2 weeks, try to set that same thing up for your freelancers if you can.
That's an incredible bit of advice to other hires. Pay your freelancers on time. So when you're scoping a project, so let's say you've created an incredible pitch, you won the deal, it's now coming into you, you know what you've budgeted. When you set that budget, did you have your team of freelancers in mind? You just know general rates for that. And so now you can bring people in on the project. You don't have to get super into the details, but I'm just curious for the freelancers to understand, are they being kind of placed into something after the fact, or Generally, I mean, the rates are generally the same. I mean, a producer's is going to cost me the same in-house per hour as a freelancer, generally speaking. Occasionally you get in a situation where you have a specific thing, like you need to have like a kiosk interface built by, a specific kind of designer, and you're already in a budget situation. You've already you've set a budget for that. You've sold the project based on that budget. Occasionally you get that situation where you say, hey, you've got to find a freelancer. Are you willing to do this project for this? Right. And
I think that works if you're very clear on the scope, you spend time defining the scope, and you talk about, to the best of your knowledge, how the project's going to be operated and how it's going to flow. But in most cases, that's not the case. But when you do, I think, again, it goes back to communication. It's like, hey, here's what this project entails. And you need to be very clear when you're getting to your hours or your time where it's out of scope. You got to tell me that so I can go back to the client and talk to them about the options. Either, okay, we're not going to pursue that level of production, or we're going to, there's a project change notice that's initiated so the client can pay with the foreknowledge that they're making the scope change.
This is such a great conversation to get into, is scope, because freelancers have a real hard time, I think, self-managing. They tend to allow scope creep because they want to get the job done. So at what point do they need to flag their hiring manager, the agency that's brought them on, to say, outside the guardrails?
Yeah, there's two things there. One, I think people get in trouble because they're generally afraid to talk about money. Right. There's this fear of talking about money like it's some taboo subject. It can't be, it shouldn't be. It's just part of the business. You be able to be very upfront about, here's what here's what I cost, here's how I need to get paid, talk through that whole thing. But as we encourage our people, as soon as if a client comes to you and says, if you're a freelancer or a staff member, we need to do this now. The first question has to be, well, thank you very much. Well, let's take a look at that. We need to determine if there's any impact on budget with that. So we'll go to our main producer, our executive producer, talk through it. If there's no impact to budget, great, let's do it. And if there is, we're then have to go back to the client and say, it's our obligation to do this, right? Because if we don't get this right, we don't get paid. Hey, there's this budget impact. We want you to make this decision based on knowing this, and then you go from there. But it's sooner the better, right? All those situations, the sooner the better. Right.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. So from a hiring standpoint, so now you've scoped your project, you've determined exactly what swim lanes you're going to need, what types of freelancers are going to go in there. You assemble your team of Avengers. Talk to me about managing them. So do they normally, is the team willing to jump on like the same regular calls? Do you have to have individual conversations with them? How do you truly?
Yes. So I don't know if everybody does it this way, but here's how we do it. We treat freelancers as employees. They participate, I even have them come, some of them we work with regularly, they come to our holiday celebrations, right? I mean,
legally, Jimmy does not do that. Let's just say legally, no, he does not. He's a real employee.
I understand the law. These people don't work just for us. We don't give them tools. They have, there are certainly legal considerations, certainly for a 1099 employee. But I would say again, I don't mean to repeat myself all the time, but it's communication. We want them involved in the conversation. Some people don't let freelancers talk to clients. We do. We want them involved so they can hear input directly. They can get direction directly. So we're not trying to interpret all the time and make sure they have all the information. So we just keep them involved. They're part of the team, 100%.
Yeah. And do you come up with an asynchronous communication plan where like everybody's in a Slack channel or a WhatsApp or whatever and just keep it rolling?
Based on client, right? Most of our clients at this point are the large enterprises are in teams. So we include them. We give them email addresses. We include them in teams and all that stuff. So they're fully engaged. We don't want them to miss any communication, right? As you know, Liz, missed information in our business can be treacherous.
Absolutely. So do you feel like it's required to motivate freelancers, or do they kind of, you've already picked a team that they're going to just go do their job?
I don't typically. I mean, they're motivated by respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
We once there was a big job, I think it was FedEx, a big sales meeting. There were like 11 companies being called in. And there are certain high-level creative directors in our business that do those kind of things, right? They do it well. So I called one of our favorite creative directors. He said, Jimmy, we've already been 3 companies already reached out to us on this job, and I still have to check my schedule. But if I can do it, if my schedule allows, I want to do it with you. That made me feel great, right? Because that means they felt respected, they felt included, treated fairly. I hear horror stories about people that the way they treat freelancers, or again, back to pay. They don't pay them on time. They don't, and they just treat them like, we'll tell you what you need to know, and then you go do your work. That's, these are some of the most talented people in the industry. The motivating them is treating them well. One of the things I like about working with freelancers, you're not really involved in their drama of their lives, and their work life is not your work life. But look, if they need to talk to you, I have a freelancer we use all the time, and she's kind of go through adoption. She's trying to adopt it. And she called me and said, can you know anything about this? I said, well, here's what I gave, I know, here's what I know about it. Right. So treating them fair, treating them with respect, treating them like a true team member. That's how I think you motivate them.
Incredible. Sina has a question around your pool of freelancers. So we talked about this a few minutes ago, but your group that you always contact, the people you've worked with for 25 years and you bring them in. But when it comes to finding new ones, we talked about that it's a lot of references and referrals coming through your network, but is it really just you calling other freelancers saying, who have you worked with that you like, or what is your network process for that?
Yeah, that's kind of it. It sounds simple, but if I need like a graphic artist, I call a set designer and say, hey, do you know somebody who does this? Or especially through COVID, right? We needed all these new digital type of, producers and digital type creators. And so I had some people that I worked with on CES and projects for CES. We were already doing a lot of digital work, but we had a whole new set. We needed a whole new group of people. So I would call them and say, hey, Bob, do you know anybody that does this type of digital creation? So, and I'd say 99 times out of 100 that those recommendations work well, and I don't even have to like reference check, right? It's like if it's somebody I trust, that they trust, and getting back to this idea that this is a very small community, that generally works pretty well. Occasionally,
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you keep talking.
Yeah. Occasionally I'll just go do some searching on LinkedIn or get my team looking on LinkedIn, and we'll come across somebody and say, this person, we've heard of them, we don't really know them, and we'll have to do a little bit more diligence to kind of get to them and talk to them. But for the most part, they're out there available. They're out, well known to us.
Yeah, the thing that I love about what you said, of course, self-servingly, is that there is a small community here. And I think oftentimes, especially the freelancers who have taken on a new role because they got laid off and they're just kind of hanging out their shingle and saying, hey, I can take on roles now, feel like they're on an island and they're approaching this thing by themselves. But what I'm hearing you say is it's the community of freelancers knowing each other that is really going to drive business to them. So creating that community, whether it's through 𝗲𝗂𝗃, a Corporate Event Marketing Association, or 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃, or any community they can get a hold of. Don't just look for clients all the time. Really build that network of freelancers, because that's where the referrals are going to come from. And
I've done that increasingly over the years with my involvement in 𝗲𝗂𝗃 and 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃, now the collective. It's like, I'm not just looking for business partnerships. I'm looking at people with a different eye, right? Like, oh, that person, if they're ever available for a project, they'd be really good at this, right? And just keeping that in the back of my mind, because people move around, right?
Yeah, I think that's important. I want to get back to motivating the team a little. I have heard some agencies will bring in the freelancers before a project and actually do a team building activity with them so that they become a team. Have you ever done that? Do you feel like that's necessary? Or to your point earlier, they're just like, look, I got work, I got a project, let's get this done. Don't make me do a forced fun pizza party.
Yeah, no, I have done that for particularly like a longer projects. We know it might be a slog, like a big complex project. Get the team together. One of my favorite, when I brought the team together one time, and I told them, we talked about, there are these groups that do these extreme like races as teams. It's like 4 team members. They have to go 1,000 miles across a continent, all terrains and everything. And when I was reading about it, I was really interested to find that these military groups, like former Navy SEALs or Army Rangers, they never win, right? It's always some weird collective of people that win. And the reason is because if you're military, you're afraid to say that you have a weakness. So you can be like limping and slowing everybody down, but you won't confess to be having like a broken ankle.
Yeah.
So what I tell the team is, look, this is going to be tough. We're going to have to face some tough moments. Don't be afraid to say I need help, right? Because at some point, everybody on this team is going to need help. That's not a bad thing. Ask for help. We'll rally around you, and that's how we keep things going, right? And stay together as a team. So yeah, I think it's important to bring people together, motivate them when you feel necessary. I don't think freelancers need motivated by themselves. They come ready to the table. They're ready to work. That's one of the great things about them. Like they do the work, you pay
plug
them.
And play.
Yeah, and that's one of the great benefits of working with freelancers. But as a team, yeah, great. Want them all working together and feeling like one unit.
Within the community and in the form, there is an opportunity to get really, really niche. Like, I need someone who does audience segmentation and targeting, or I need someone who does digital campaigns. Is that something that you generally look for, those really super niche specific things, or do you tend to hire more generalists?
No, we do. You know, most of our specific niche stuff is in creative, specific types of creativity.
Okay.
Yeah, but we definitely do that. And then I sometimes I'll start calling around, right? If you know somebody does that, right? Fortunately, online there's so much information available online these days. It's a lot easier than it used to be, for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. Anka, do you have any questions?
Yes, I would like to go back a bit to the specific niche kind of skills that you need in events. And I always have on my mind, because I know, I told you, I have a different experience, where event organizers tend to do things the same way since 10 years, because that is what they know. And I was telling you, Jimmy, earlier that in my world as a full-time employed, when I was a full-time employed event professional, I didn't have time to look around. And you say now that things are so much easier because you see information around. Yeah, not everybody has access to it. Not everybody sees it. Not everybody has the time to look around to see it. So this is why I'm always advocating for bring in freelancers, yes, for the specialized skills that you might miss in your in-house team, but also for that fresh perspective, because that freelancer might open a whole new world how webinars are done. I didn't know StreamYard until recently. I did it the old way, old way. Yeah, I did it via Zoom and other platforms where we live share, where we live stream the webinars. So there are so many technologies. Liz knows more about the entire tech world here, but this is what I'm saying always. Hire freelancers for skills that you miss in your in-house team, but also for that fresh perspective. So yeah.
No, I would agree with that. One of the things that we have a difficult time in our business is getting fresh perspective. It's a balance, right? It's a great team that's working together. You don't want to do anything to throw it off balance, but you do want fresh perspective, and you can't just add. Sometimes you got to replace. So it's something I probably don't spend enough time thinking about. So it's a great point, Anka, that you're making.
I have a question on that. Just the word replace triggered it for me. So since COVID, people have been a whole lot more concerned about when someone gets sick and what do you do? When you have assembled a team of freelancers and you have somebody on a specific stream, how do you think about that backup plan? How does that work?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't, we're not allowed to get sick, are we? I mean,
no, I know.
I've never really thought of it that way. I always feel like if we build the team right and construct it right, you're working to a timeline with a great, plan and workflow, things, there are going to be surprises, but we've never really felt like, I'm trying to think of a time when somebody was like not able to work on what we did. It feels like it's naturally the team just rallies around and we find a way to get it done. I don't feel like that's ever been a real problem. We're like, oh my God, somebody's out. We have one guy that we work with, not on client projects, that have developed a very serious life-threatening illness. And he's a big loss. I mean, no doubt we've had a hard time replacing him because he had a very specific creative skill, but it wasn't project related. We didn't put us behind the 8 ball on a project.
Yeah. What about the on-site support that you go look for, like what we would call a travel director, or the day of, when you were kind of talking about those? Do you have a network of where you find those, or do you kind of like have somebody in charge of it and they would bring in the day support? Like, is there tiers of freelancing?
Yeah. So the way labor for us breaks down in general, we have what we consider permalancers, right? That'd be somebody that's a freelancer that works all through pre-production, leading into the job, and they may or may not be on site too. In most cases, at a senior level, they're on site as well. The scenic designer, the writer, the technical director, the creative director. Then there's like kind of one-off freelance hires, but we'll typically are still using them multiple times over the course of the year. But they're more of, like you're saying, coming on site. Might be a video director who's running the video crew to get all the highlight video capture, right? And then there's crew that are basically local labor, where we're going to, for the cost benefits of hiring local, there's no travel expense for a client. And it might be the sound guy on the video team, right? We might find him locally. He's still a freelancer. We pay him like a freelancer on a 1099. But he's just going to come on site and be that person. And that's probably a second level hire from the video director. We want all our freelancers, by the way, to where they're bringing in a team or have to work with a team to select their own team where possible. We want to say, we're not going to tell you who you need to work with. If you're responsible for this, you also have the authority to operate that way.
Beautiful. Okay, well, and that brings back to one of the things Anka's always talking about, which is the cost savings of hiring local freelancers and local support. So when you're doing that, what do you look for in those freelancers? Because they're probably also going to come to you through a network. Somebody recommends them. What's the due diligence you do? Is it LinkedIn? Is it online portfolio?
It's the same, but I kind of back to what I was just saying. We're going to rely on the subject matter expert being the person that's managing them to bring them in. There are services that have, like, you can go through particularly for video crew. If you need a video crew anywhere, there are companies that have video crew talent all over the country, and then they're pretty good. Same thing with staffing agents. If you're staffing like you would for a trade show or something like that, same thing there. But if we're looking for a specific, like just back to the video crew, example, an audio guy or a lighting guy for a video, like a run and gun video crew, I'm relying on that that director of production that we've hired to know. And that's one of the values that they're bringing to the table, right? They're bringing that knowledge. They've got people they've worked with all over. So we're getting the extended value of the value of their extended network.
Yeah, no, it's great, because I know that this specific webinar is for the hirers as they're considering building out the freelance team, but we do have freelancers watching it. So just trying to understand from their perspective, what do they need to have at the ready for people to be able to look at? Because we've kind of talked through do they need the personalized website that's the full portfolio of everything they've ever done? Do they just need their LinkedIn profile and some recommendations, or, to what depth do they really need? Because if it's all through the network, then.
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, there used to be, everybody to have a website. A lot of people would have a website. I don't know if it's worth them going through the expense of doing that anymore with so much information. You can put so much quality content on your LinkedIn, profile. It seems to be it's simplified quite a bit over the past 5-6 years. Yeah,
that's what I mean. If you've got your sizzle reels, they just live on Vimeo or YouTube, and then you pull that into LinkedIn, and it's all kind of there, and it can be your portfolio.
Exactly. And I also tell people, if you're looking for work, it's okay to use a bigger piece of work that maybe you played a smaller part in. You don't have to say, I did all this from beginning to end, soup to nuts. It's like, here's the project and here's what I did. I know there's some people out there that are kind of reticent to do that. They're like worried about laying claim to that work that's not theirs. They should be. They need to be very, very honest about that. But it's okay to say, this is the project. Here's what I did as part of that project, and just be very clear on what your role was.
Yeah. One of the other conversations we have a lot with the freelancers is that, and I struggle with this from their personal branding perspective, when they're like, I can do anything. Throw me in a trade show, throw me in a conference, throw me in a experiential activation. I can do anything, which is, to me, kind of a red flag for somebody hiring them, because it's like, okay, but what do you actually really do well? So when you look for those, and I know a lot of your stuff is creative, and so you're looking for a specific producer or whatever, but for some of those conferences you're doing, do you look for a jack of all trades, or do you say, I just need an expert in this?
Well, for sure, there's value. Like a lot of people in the event industry, we can do so many things and so many things well. That's what makes us good at what we do, right? I think the question for me is always, and they're valuable too, even if you only have them doing one of the 10 things they do great, because they understand all those other things, they're that much more valuable to, and they might point out something. Hey, I'm not involved with this piece, but hey, I saw this over here. You might want to take a look at it, right? That's super valuable. But I try to start with, for people like that have a lot of experience and a lot of breadth and skill set. I want to know what their superpower is. I say, what is your specific superpower? And I want to match that up as what do you like doing in this business? So I want you doing what you do best, and I want you doing what you like to do. If you don't match those things up, you can get in trouble. Like, I know you're really great at that, but if you hate that, I really don't want you doing that.
Yeah, by the way,
100%.
What would be some of the biggest red flags that you consider when vetting and hiring a freelancer? Because for sure there are some red flags all the time.
One of my biggest red flags is people that seem worn out and burn out, right? We know this business can take its toll on you, and you can have all the experience in the world, but when I'm talking to you, or I'm and interviewing you or trying to get to know you for the first time, you can tell when people they're a little cranky, right? They're fried, they're burnt out, or they're on the creative side. They can be like what I consider like kind of retreads, and they're going to come back to the table with all the same ideas over and over again. So you need fresh. So if I'm not hearing fresh, I'm not hearing enthusiasm, fresh thinking, that's a huge red flag for me.
And I love the fresh thinking piece of that too. So it's like you can tell when you're talking to somebody and they're like, I did that. That was terrible. Yeah, I did that. That was terrible. Versus the, oh my gosh, I saw this at the last 2 events I was at. We should totally try it at this one.
Right.
So when it comes to Anka's point of bringing in freelancers because they have a broader view, they've done so many events, what kind of opportunities do you think people should like, what should we give them? How should we give them that opportunity to share those ideas? Is it part of the pitch? Like when you've already won the business, so it's not like you're re-pitching, but like, where is that opportunity to get those new perspectives? That question makes sense. It was rambly.
I think I know what you're saying. It's in talking about their past work. I mean, again, talking about what do you like to do, you know, and just like if they're bringing like a quarter of the enthusiasm you bring to what you do, that's a great thing, right? And we lack that, and sometimes it's hard to maintain that level of enthusiasm, that excitement over a project as you've done things over and over and over. It's pretty easy to say, you know, I've been there, done that. And we have to fight against that. We really do. We have to do it ourselves internally. We have to do it with all the people we work with, and you know, and empower them to do what they do best. One of the things I try to do, as far as integrating a freelancer into the team, I don't want them to worry about anything other than what they do. Right? I don't want them to worry about, you know, we're not a large agency where we've got a lot of bureaucracy. You know, where they've got to worry about how they do file their timesheets and their expense reports and all that stuff. We want to make all that stuff super simple so they can just do what they do best and clear everything else out of the way. Well, that's why I tell them, I said, we'll take everything else. You just do what we've assigned you to do, what you asked you to do, what you've agreed to do. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, and then that kind of, sometimes that lightens up their load right there. And they get excited like, oh, wow, I can just do that. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's incredible. So go ahead, Anka, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. How Liz mentioned earlier, how do you keep them on their lane? Okay, yes, you value the bigger perspective because event professionals have a bigger perspective. But did you ever struggle to keep freelancers on their lane? Or did you maybe ever met conflictual situations within the expertise of each freelancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to think. I feel like I had more trouble doing that with staff people than with freelancers. Freelancers understand their lane. When I had a much larger staff, I spent more time keeping people in their lanes, right? Particularly the natural relationship between producers that get things done every day and the creators that are trying to create the greatest thing in the world. I spent a lot of time on managing those relationships. With freelancers, you don't have to. That's one of the benefits of it. They know what they're hired to do as long as you've been clear about it, yeah. and you've been transparent with them and talked through it. They don't really need to be kept in their lane. In fact, I'd rather encourage them to, like I was mentioned before, look, if you see something that doesn't make sense to you or that doesn't look right, say so. You know, just say so. Say it to me. Don't maybe go to somebody else that was working on that. Maybe come to me directly, or maybe if you have already enough of a relationship, say to them, hey, ask them why they're doing it that way. But I don't feel like you have to rein freelancers in like you do staff people.
Talking about our event, because you will attend the matchmaking part, how should freelancers, from your point of view, perfect their power pitching? Because each meeting is 15 minutes long. So it's enough to form that first impression to decide if you want a follow-up interview or not with a person. What do you think freelancers should focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, and there's probably lots of ways to answer this, but here's what I tell them. First of all, think before they go in. What do you really want to be doing? Don't go in and want to be everything. I'm saying, like, what are you good at? What do you like to do? And what you can make money at, right? If that's a technical director or if that's a writer, whatever that is, start with that and be very clear on that. Be prepared to talk about, you know, your past work in a very honest way. I mean, it's okay. I think it's okay to say you don't know how to do something, or you don't, or something. There's a lot of great, people out there that aren't necessarily strong on administrative skills, right? They got great people skills, but maybe not great administrative skills. I think don't be afraid to talk about those things, but focus on your strengths, focus on what you love about this business. I mean, I'll probably ask people, like, what do you love about the business? How'd you get into it? What do you love about it? I'd be prepared to answer those questions because that's really what it's about. That's why.
Are you prepared for answer like I hate it?
Yeah.
Because that most most of us, we are indeed, how you said, yeah, maybe it's that burnout point, but many of us have so many things that we do not like about, and we would like to change, but maybe don't have the power.
I think we should practice this with you, Anka. What's your power pitch? Do it.
Oh, in 180 words.
in 35 seconds.
35 seconds. No, I love exactly this, personalizing everything for the type of attendees. I love this because I've been struggling, and Liz knows better, to niche my messages, because I built the website of 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 Event Freelancing Forum. I built the ambassador program. I'm very good in creative design and in graphic design. I'm good in managing everything registration-wise, but what I love to do is exactly this, creating the journey of the attendee, thinking about what, sometimes I overthink, everything that an attendee experiences from the website. And I hate it when I get questions in the past. And I realized I wasn't clear enough. So if I get a question, in my mind is, okay, that attendee did not understand something. So something was not clear on the website, or in our emails. For me, this is what matters, no? The feel of the attendees.
For sure.
Oh, is that power pitch?
And how would you fix her pitch? Would you fix her pitch at all?
Is it?
No, I think I think she's answering the question. Like, what do you love to do? If you start talking about what you really like about this business, look, there's plenty of things not to like. I mean, you can't. This business can be hard, so you can't love everything about it. But talk about what you love about the business, what you like about your role in this business. Your enthusiasm will come through, your energy will come through, and that's what people are looking for. At least that's what I'm looking for.
That's awesome. Okay, so how about let's get through that format. So Anka, you said that these are 15-minute meetings. So people are going to join in, the hirers are going to be sitting there ready, and the hirer is just going to kind of do an introduction and say, hey, these are the types of programs I work on. These are the types of projects and people that I'm looking for. Who are you and what do you do? And now the freelancer gets to do their pitch. Is that how it's going to go, Anka?
This is the fun of business matchmaking events, because you see a profile. It's not a CV. You will see on the platform that everything is very short. You see their main skills, or the freelancer sees the hirer main skills that they are looking for or they need. Yeah. And then you see a description, a very short description. So you have no idea how the conversation will go. If the hirer initially starts with questions, if actually the freelancer gets the chance to power pitch. But this is what I loved about what Jimmy just said. I have for sure some questions that I want to ask, and I'm asking everybody generally, what do you love about this business? This for me is brilliant because it opens the conversation, and absolutely sure the conversation will pick up from there. And the 15 minutes, from my experience, sometimes, very rarely, are not enough, but most of the time, you have no idea how many things you can discuss, knowing that you just have 15 minutes. It brings the best in you or the worst. So who knows?
Yeah, I'd say if somebody's unsure about doing this or maybe a little bit uncomfortable about this format, go practice with somebody, right? Go do a practice round with a friend or a colleague.
Yeah, exactly.
I like, when I talk to the younger professionals that are looking for an internship or something, I always like to ask the question of, what do you do in your spare time? Not to be weird and creepy, but the people that tell me that they volunteer at events or they're, trying to get more into all these things, I'm like, okay, these are people who are going to come in because they are looking for ways to learn, rather than the people who go, I hang out on the weekends with friends. I have a dog. I love that you have all those things. But what I'm looking for is, how does that relate to business? And how does it tell me what you're going to think about when you come in and work with us? And so I'm wondering, on the freelancer side of things, are you looking for people who, not to say like our industry tries to burn everybody out by working all the time, but are you looking for answers like that, which is curiosity, and that I'm always trying to learn something new? Or are you looking for expertise? Like, I have this, I do this, and then when I'm off, I'm off. Does it matter?
Definitely with younger people, for sure. You want to know that they're really in it for the long haul. They're committed. They see this as a career. You see a lot of people that younger that come into the business or they're interested in the business because they've been involved in some form of party planning, which is great. I mean, this is a much different commitment, right? When you think about strategically how you're approaching an event, how you design an event, how you helping the client deliver particular important messaging. So you want to know that they're not thinking, I want to do this because it's fun, right? They want to do this because they see it as a real potential career, and they're getting involved in things like you're talking about, Liz, in terms of, showing their curiosity, showing their real interest level. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I love that.
Next point from Jill. So yeah, it's very true, because we get hired as freelancers for multiple roles. So I might get a contract for exactly that, the attendee journey, but my next contract might be all about registration or something connected to a trade show. So yeah, we need to be because yeah, it's true what Jill said.
Yeah, and there's different titles for people to do the same thing depending on where you're coming from. Like we might call something a project coordinator or a project manager, which is kind of the same thing as a travel director in the world of Emirates, or it's kind of a similar type of thing. So yeah, talk about what
this is a really great point. So my husband was experiencing this while job hunting right now. The title of product manager has now changed depending on the company that you're in. And I know that the word producer means something different when you're in corporate than it does for an agency. So how do you actually match that title to title conversation? Do you just really go in by skill set and just try to look for the description? Or is there a place you can go to understand the glossary?
Well, I think it's I don't think there is, because we don't have that. Our industry is so fragmented, and it's not something you go learn in school and you took a certain courses, and we don't have that kind of infrastructure supporting us, right? But to Jill's point, it's tell me what you do well, and doing the more deeper dive into actually stage manager, show caller, exactly, to the point. Like, well, when you say stage manager, are you somebody on the stage where you're directing time to go out on stage, or are you calling the show from the control booth, which is a different type of stage manager? So you got to know exactly what they've done in the past.
But you know that
great question.
Sorry, you are much closer in United States, because you have the CMP things. We do not. We literally in Europe, we do not have these things. So we are event manager, officer, show producer. We do not have. So you are getting closer a bit to a standardization. I worked many years ago in standardization. So yes, maybe this is a very very good point to focus on future discussions on. No, David is asking CMP. We have European professionals. I saw European professionals who got the titles, but they don't mean much in the professional world here. Nobody hires somebody because, look, he has a CMP certification. Employers don't know that.
Nicole, I want Jimmy to tell us what his favorite book behind him is.
A lot of good ones back there. Good to Great probably is always a favorite. But Anka, I'm curious. So on the platform, which I'll engage with next week, you're selecting different skills, right? You're not selecting titles. You're selecting skills.
Exactly, we're selecting skills and type of events. And if anybody notices that something is missing, or we can add it immediately. But yes, we are focusing on skills exactly because of the European market as well.
Yeah, and that's a good head start. You're not asking what their title is. You're asking like what skills do you?
Skills. Yeah, we thought that this was the way to go. Skills. What do you know? What do you love doing and you are best at?
Yeah. So I'm interested in Nicole's question around someone sending in video highlights of their skills. Obviously, they're looking for a creative position. If you're looking for someone who's creating videos, then yes, you want to see those. But of people working on site, I don't know that that's is it like a sizzle reel of this is a project that I was a part of?
That's an interesting idea, Nicole. That could be great if you can get it, if you can capture it. Maybe more important would be, or as important would be, referrals from people you work with. I don't know if you ever put together a video like, here's what people have to say about
video testimonial.
Yeah.
Jimmy, did you enjoy working with me?
I'm Nicole. Tell me how much you like me. Right?
No, but it got me thinking at one of our previous webinars, exactly this. How many freelancers, for example, in exhibitions, how many freelancers get a feedback after 6 months? Look, with my work, did you get something out of my work, a positive? Can you? So it's more than a recommendation. I think about it more as than a recommendation. I'm thinking about palpable results or something. If you ever ask
surveying the organizations you're working for about your work. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know we only have a few minutes left. So from the hirer's perspective, Jimmy, what do you think other people who are looking to hire freelancers should consider when they go into this Power Pitch event? Like, do they need to have something really like this is an upcoming project, or is this kind of an open mind opportunity for you to just find out what new talents out there that I haven't been introduced to before?
I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm approaching it more open-mindedly, right? Because sometimes you don't know what you need until you see it, right? And also, you don't want to be in the position where too often, or a lot of times, we're hiring for a specific need. Sometimes it's a quick turnaround, right? So you're scrambling a little bit, you know. So I like the idea to have this available to us to go out there and like see who's out there. I'm also curious because I'm an industry guy, right? I want to know what's out there in the industry, you know, what's out there available in terms of talent. I'm sure there's quite a bit of talent out there, a lot of talent. But I'm going to go in open mind and say, like, you know, who's out there? And it might prompt me to say, hey, I need to add another role to this team. You know, this person could be the glue for this team or fill a hole that I didn't even know I had. So I'm looking at it more from an open-minded standpoint.
I love that perspective. And I think that these types of networking things, we don't see them very often online. It's kind of like you work your referral network, you go to in-person events, but if you're working all the time and you can't do that, finding new ways to meet people, I think is going to be an important way to move forward this year. So this is a big experiment for us to try to pull together freelancers and hirers in this networking way. We'll see how it goes. I know we have probably a dozen or 24 people kind of signed up to be a part of this on the hirer side. So fingers crossed that this works. And I really appreciate your contribution to this and your willingness to help us out.
Oh, great. You know, like I said, like Anka and I talked about, the events are team sports. So anything I can do to help. And I'm learning too, by the way. It's important for me to stay involved in ways like this. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for supporting us, really. And yes, let's see how it goes. It's the last day to register tomorrow. So yes, everybody really, now is the time.
Okay, let's say that more forcefully. So today is Halloween, October 31st. Tomorrow is November 1st, which is your last chance as a freelancer to sign up to join us on the 5th, 6th, and 7th. It is 3 days where you can pick your time to go in and meet with hirers and get matched based on your skills and their needs, or these more broad conversations like Jimmy's talking about. This is a super exciting experiment for us to try to put together the matchmaking opportunities. And Anka, thank you for pulling all this together. And Jimmy, thank you for being on today and being our final webinar in the series leading up to the matchmaking event.
That was fun. Thanks. Happy Halloween, everyone.
So much for your support. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you
soon.
Yeah.